We good? All right, well, thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Coach, for the introduction. I appreciate that. So it's going to be a little bit tough because you guys are eating, but we're going to do it anyways. Everybody say warrior.
Warrior!
Again with more energy. Warrior!
Warrior!
Good. I saw some people with some mouth in their food or food in their mouth. But you guys tried, and I appreciate that. Warrior. Okay? There's a ton of movies in our culture about warriors. You have Braveheart. You have Last Samurai. You have Gladiator. You have most recently Lone Survivor. How many people have seen Lone Survivor? Incredible movie. Right? And who loved Lone Survivor? We love it. Now as athletes, and especially as male athletes, we watch these movies and something inside of us gets stirred up, right? I remember the first time I saw Braveheart. Okay, the first time I saw Braveheart, I rented the movie. I was actually house sitting for my uncle. Now my uncle, he's done pretty well in life, so he's got this 80-inch TV, right? 80 inches, surround sound in his living room, right? It's 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm watching Braveheart. Now Braveheart's a 3-hour movie. Why I watched it at 3 o'clock in the morning, I have no idea. But I started watching the movie, like, people are saying this is a pretty good movie, so I'm gonna watch it. So I was sitting there. First battle scene happens. Now I'm kind of like this, right? Because now I'm getting into it. By the end of the movie, I'm like, freedom! I'm not even Irish, right? I'm half Japanese, but I'm feeling this movie so much. My uncle had a fake sword. I'm like walking through the place with this sword, like, ah! Just yelling, because I'm so amped up. And so after I watch the movie, I'm like, why am I so amped up? I'm not a fighter. Look at me, I'm not a fighter. I've never been a soldier, I'm not in the military. But something in that movie I can connect to. You guys feel that? When you watch movies like that, whether it's an inspirational sports story or a movie about war, you feel something. Something inside of you gets stirred up. That's because as athletes, there's 4 key elements that we can relate to as athletes to warriors, right? And the beauty of these 4 elements is it doesn't matter if you're the biggest, the fastest, the most skilled athlete. I never was. I played baseball in high school. I was never the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, or the most skilled athlete. But I know that all 4 of these elements, these 4 characteristics, can apply to any one of you. They can apply to me, if you put your mind to it. So here are the 4 elements that make up a true warrior, a warrior's spirit, a warrior's mentality. Number 1, they train with purpose. Coach told me that your guys' your motto, your 3 core values are effort. No, you guys tell me. What are they?
Effort, intensity, and execution.
Effort, intensity, execution. Okay? So when a warrior, when a soldier is training for battle, every single thing they do is done with intentionality. Right? They don't do anything half-hearted. They don't do stuff just to get by so they can get to the end of their day and be done with it. No. Every workout, every exercise, every drill is done for a specific reason. Those guys study their opponent. They study the terrain that they're going to fight on, right? They learn the ins and outs of the weapons that they're going to use on the battlefield. Why? Because if they don't, it could mean the difference between life and death, right? Now, sports is not life and death, right? Wins and losses, at the end of the day, you won't die. But some have considered sports war without fatalities, especially for a game like football, a brutal, intense game like football. Out on the gridiron, it feels like war sometimes. Am I right?
Yes.
Absolutely. You guys are putting your bodies through hell to succeed. But in order to be able to be successful on the field during a game on Friday nights, you have to put the work in right now. That's why you guys are doing this multi-week camp, training session, off-season program. Is to prepare your minds and your bodies for the brutality and the intensity of a Friday night game. And like I said, I've played sports my entire life, and I know how athletes think. And I don't know any of you, and I'm not going to pretend like I know some of you, but I know there's athletes all over this campus that are going to try to cut corners and do the least amount of work possible, just enough to get by. Do we know someone like that? Raise your hand. We know people like that. Don't point fingers. But we know people like that, right? That's not going to do it on the battlefield during a game. That will not do it, right? Because I played with athletes, they would cut corners, they would give a little bit of effort in practice, they would skip as much as they possibly could, and they thought their talents and their abilities and the adrenaline of the game was going to carry them to a victory. I'll tell you what, it does not. The areas that they lack during a game are the same areas that they lacked during practice, the same areas that they skipped. Coach said, hey, run 2 miles. They ran 1.5 and caught a ride with a buddy the last half. Well, guess what? During the game, they gassed out at the end of the game. Why? Because they skipped out on their conditioning. They didn't take it seriously. They were trying to do just enough to get by in practice so they could, say they did it. Warriors don't do that. Warriors don't think like that. Warriors can't afford to do that. Everything they do, whether it's the most mundane, boring piece of practice, or it's the most exciting part of practice, they do it all with the same intensity because you've heard it all before. How you train, how you practice will determine how you play. So number one, warriors train with purpose. Number two, warriors are mentally tough. And I'm going to use this guy as an example because in my opinion, he's the perfect example of someone who knows mental toughness warfare, Richard Sherman. Whether you like him or dislike him, his whole game is to get into the opponent's head. And how many times does he do it? That dude, all the time. He wins that battle all the time. You saw it in the playoffs last year with Michael Crabtree. Crabtree was still talking about it after the game. Why? Because he knew in the middle of that game, he got to him. You can tell when you watch a game. It doesn't have to be Richard Sherman, it can be any game. You can watch when an athlete is broken. This past year, some of you were at the Parent Combine. David Goggins, U.S. Navy SEAL, man, beast, David Goggins was at the Combine. And he said this, he said the best about competition. Competition is, your goal in competition is to break the will of your opponent and steal their soul. That's a terrifying statement, but that's exactly what competition is. So not only say this about mental toughness, a warrior won't give an inch. A warrior, there might be a bad call by a ref, the guy you're lined up against maybe talking trash ball game. A warrior doesn't care because a warrior is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's winning. That's succeeding, that's the goal that he's achieving. But here's what happens, if you're focused on this, and then someone over here is jawing or the referee makes a bad call, now all of a sudden you're losing focus on this and you're starting to go this way. And now your focus is more on, okay, I gotta get that guy to keep talking trash, instead of the goal. And as soon as you do that, you have given that person the keys to your mind, and now they're in the driver's seat, right? Because you're no longer focused on your goal, you're focused on them. And so warriors, when you look at how armies and soldiers and military groups and these ancient samurais and Spartans train, when they're studying their opponent, you don't study your opponent to find the strongest place and attack that. It's a waste of time and energy. Why? Because that's the area they're strongest. You're not going to waste time attacking that. What they're going to do is they're going to attack the weakest link, the place where you're most defenseless. And that goes the same for your mind. If you show them that you're mentally weak, they will jump on it. That's what us as athletes do. We will jump on the weakest person on the field. Now what happens if there is no weakest person? If every person on the team is a warrior, every person has that warrior mentality, and every person is mentally strong, there's nowhere to attack. They must outplay you. And that's the biggest thing in sports. If you give them the edge mentally, you give them half the game. If you're strong mentally and you don't give them an edge mentally, then you force them to outplay you. They can only beat you physically. And that's the place you want to be. Right? So number one, warriors train with purpose. Number two, warriors are mentally tough. Number three, warriors fight for team. You look at any war movie, any biography on soldiers, they're always talking about how they would not leave someone behind. Look at Lone Survivor, right? That whole movie is about brotherhood, fighting for each other, surviving for each other, dying for each other. That's what soldiers do. It's built in their DNA because they eat with those people, they're practicing, they're training, they're going to war with those people. Those are their brothers. And there's a big difference between someone who fights for themselves and only themselves versus someone who's got a cause to fight for. If you have a cause to fight for, if you're fighting for a group of people, your brothers, you're going to be able to push yourself further than you ever thought you could. Because you're no longer doing it for yourself, you're doing it for everybody around you. Does anybody like hip hop? Anybody like Kendrick Lamar? Okay, well he had a verse, a line in one of his verses that says, what is competition? I set the bar high. Who's going to jump and get it? Now what does that mean? That means he's setting the bar up here. And he's challenging everybody else to reach for it. So when you push yourself in practice, when you push yourself outside of practice in school, you're challenging the rest of your teammates. It's good competition, right? There's a difference between competing against a competitor and competing with each other. The further you go, the more you run, the more he's going to run. Coach says, hey, we're gonna do 50 suicides today. I mean, that may be a lot, I don't know. Maybe not enough, I don't know how crazy coach is. 40s, okay, 40s. He's like, okay, cool, coach, I understand that. I'm gonna do 5 more of what you asked me to do. Why? Because he's trying to make himself better, he's trying to make everybody else in the team better. right? That's what it means to fight for a team. In the trenches, during a game, can you look to your left and your right, and you see a guy that's going to fight just as hard as you are? You see a guy who's going to fight for you and not going to give up for all 4 quarters. That's what a team is, right? That's what a warrior's mentality is. Fighting to the very end and knowing that you have guys on your side that will fight with you. That's what we want to develop here. And not just on the field. You guys are student athletes, which means student first, right? Student athlete, that's the key phrase. So if you guys aren't performing in the classroom, then they won't let you play on the field. That's just how it works. So a lot of times when these situations happen with coaches talking to athletes about grades, it's always the coaches that have to talk to the athletes. Say, hey, why are your grades this way? Why are your grades that way? That's not the way it should be, because as the coaches are the generals on the field and they're telling you where to go and what to do and they're strategizing, you are the soldiers that are on the field, grinding it out, putting the work in. So why is it that the coaches are the ones approaching each other rather than you guys stepping up and saying, hey, I know that your grades are slipping a little bit. We need you on this team. We need you on this team. We need you to step it up. If you see someone that's acting up outside of the field, that's doing stupid stuff, that's behaving badly, that's getting in trouble, who's going to be a leader and step up and say, hey, that's not what Eagles do. That's not what this team does. That's not what Warriors do. You're better than that. We need you on this field, so we can't afford to have you doing stuff like that. Let's get it together. Who's going to do that? We need leaders to step up. There we go. See? Some of you guys already raised your hand. That's amazing. So we got number 1, train with purpose. Number 2, warriors are mentally tough. Number 3, warriors fight for their team. And number 4, and the most important one, warriors live with honor. If you ever see a soldier out in the community, at a grocery store, at a restaurant, and they're in uniform, they walk with a sense of pride. They walk with a sense of pride that's different than anybody else in that room, and they carry themselves in a way that shows, I'm representing something greater than myself right now. I'm representing something beyond me as an individual. They understand that those uniforms mean that they're representing a group of people that are fighting just as hard as they are. And I heard this quote the other day. It says, the name on the front of your jersey is who you represent. It's who you play for. The name on the back of your jersey is who raised you. Do them both justice. Let me say that again. The name on the front is who you play for. The name on the back is who raised you. Do them both justice. That's huge. So let's start with the first grade, the team. When it says Eagles across your chest, whether you're in school, out in the community, with your family, on the field, the way you guys act, the way you guys play, the way you guys treat other people, does that show what Eagles football is about? If I was to ask your coaches about you guys, would they say yes or no?
Yes.
Good. That's what we want to hear. If I ask your teachers, would they say, oh, that guy's an Eagles football player, watch out for him? Or they say, that guy's an Eagles football player, you don't have to worry about him. There's a huge difference, and athletes, unfortunately, us athletes, all of us, we're either the solution or the problem. If there's somebody being bullied on your campus, are you part of the problem, or are you part of the solution?
Solution.
Part of the solution. That's the way it should be. I like the interaction. This is good. I don't usually get this, Coach. This is good. So that's the first part. Are you representing the front well, the Eagles well? Now the backside, and I want to pause here and take a moment to explain this, because some of the areas I've gone in to speak to teams, they felt a certain way about this, what I'm about to say. Okay, so listen carefully, please. The name on the back. If you've grown up in a house with parents and a family that loves you, and is taking care of you, and it's been a positive environment, then represent them well. Because they put a lot of time and energy and effort to get you where you're at. Now, unfortunately, I know how this world is, man, and on the flip side of that, there's some of us in this room that maybe don't have that same thought process. The name on the back of your jersey doesn't necessarily mean something positive. Maybe it's a negative thing. Maybe you haven't had the greatest home life. Maybe you haven't had the greatest influences. I don't know. I don't know you guys. I'm not going to pretend to. But if that's the case, if that name means something negative, take this as an opportunity to recreate what that name means. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If that name means something negative in your mind, and it's not a positive thing, live with honor, integrity, and character, and change the name on the back, change the meaning back there. That's what it means to live with honor. At all times, in all places, live with honor. You don't choose to live with honor on the field and then off the field change it, or off the field one way and then on the field, no. When you live, when a warrior, oh, we got someone coming in? All right, we're gonna start over. Warrior! Warrior! Let's keep, we're gonna start over. So that's living with honor. Okay? So let's look back at the 4 things. What's the first one? Train with purpose. Number 2, be mentally tough. Number 3, fight for teammates. Number 4, live with honor. Those are the 4 traits. Anybody can do those. Like I said at the beginning, you don't have to be the biggest, the fastest, the strongest to do those 4 things. Anybody can live that way. And so as I close, let me say this. As I've studied the warriors and what warriors do and military soldiers, and I've talked to military soldiers, even prison guards have to do this. They have what's called their warrior's creed. Okay? A creed is a statement. It's a written statement used by these different groups. You can go online to the U.S. Navy SEALs, the Marines. You can go online. You can find their creeds on their website. This is a declaration of how a Marine or a soldier is going to live with that group. You guys follow me? Okay. That's how they live. It's a statement of how they live. And it's not something that, hey, it's up there on our website. That's what we would like them to do. No. They're required to memorize, learn, and live it. Get it? Learn, memorize, and live it. And it's not something they just live on the battlefield. They live it all the time. They live by this code. It's part of who they are. It's their lifestyle. Okay? So from what I understand, tomorrow you guys will be signing contracts. Okay? Character contracts is part of being part of this Eagles football team here at Clayton High School. I want you guys to think of it as your warrior's code, your warrior's creed. Okay? What is the standard that you're going to hold for yourself and your teammates? Are you willing to create a culture of excellence? Are you willing to raise the bar for each other and for the rest of the school? 5 years from now, will you be able to come back after you guys are graduated and coming back from college? Will you guys see a culture with your thumbprint on it? Where it's like, you know what, I was part of that when it started. I was part of developing these warriors that have come past us or come behind us. That's what we're trying to do here, guys, is leave a legacy. And this is a freshman group. Leave a legacy and challenge the guys above you. You should have the guys above you, the varsity guys, say, you know what, they're doing something different down there. There's a mentality, there's this warrior's mentality. I can't place my finger on it. Just like I said, when you watch a movie, there's that thing that amps you up inside, but you're not sure what it is. You want that people around this community, other teams, this school, to feel that same way when they see you guys play football, when they see you guys practice, when they see you guys in the community. So let me say this, and I take this part dead serious. Dead serious. If you guys are willing to take that challenge to live and compete as warriors, as a team, stand up right now. Now look around, look around. This is the most dangerous thing a football team can do. When you have this many warriors running in the same direction towards the same goal as one unit, there's nothing more powerful than that, nothing more dangerous than that. Does that make sense? Yes. Everybody say warrior.
Warrior!
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 Thank you guys very much. Good luck this season.
Hey guys, did you like that presentation?
Yeah.
And you've obviously seen some schools that have that warrior mentality. What do you think that does for them in the long term or in the short term that helps them realize what they want to get out of high school?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that it teaches you guys that there's a tenacity that you need. Like I said, the whole mental toughness thing. it's going to be something you carry throughout life in every aspect of life. Whether it's the football field, and you can ask any of the coaches here, coaches, when you graduate from high school, does life get easier or tougher? It gets tougher. You know, I think a lot of times when we're in high school, this is my mentality when I was in high school. It's like, I just need to graduate high school, and I did good in high school. I got good grades in high school, but still there was times where it was rough. And like once I graduate high school, life's gonna be a lot easier. It gets more difficult because then you get a job, you go to college, and all this crazy stuff starts happening. So, but the beauty of it is the stuff that I learned in sports, the mental toughness aspects, your tenacity, you know, dealing with obstacles when you're struggling on the field. Learning that mentality helps you off the field too, because there's gonna be times where in your job, life's gonna be tough and things don't go your way. In your life with your family, things are gonna be difficult and things aren't gonna go your way. But if you have this warrior's mentality, it's the beautiful thing about it. Like I said, it applies to everything. You don't have to be a soldier, you don't have to go to combat to have that mentality. It can apply to any area of life. And so I think if you can learn it now and carry that through high school, once you leave high school, you're gonna have a huge advantage over everybody else, whether it's sports or school or a job. You know, you see it all the time in jobs and careers, people get lazy, right? They get you know, kind of laid back in their jobs, and they stop fighting for the things that they love. They stop fighting to make themselves better. But if you have a warrior's mentality, settling in mediocrity is unacceptable. A warrior's mentality, that's just not acceptable. So you're going to continue to persevere and push forward when other people quit.
What about on, you know, because I think all of us relate to the fact that out on the gridiron, it's like war. I mean, it's hand-to-hand combat. We talked a little bit about that yesterday with the physicality of football. How or what can I do as a student athlete, and I'm going to add in there leader as well, because how many of you guys are planning or looking at running maybe for student offices? A couple of you guys are. Or how many of you guys want to be possibly a leader on this team? So it's definitely the student athlete leader. Hey, can I pick and choose where to apply this warrior's mentality, or is it something that I have to strive to apply in every aspect of my life? And if that's the case, what are some things that I can do to maybe make myself better in those other areas where I'm not used to doing?
Yeah, no, sure you could choose, but it's not going to work. You know, it's one of those things where you can't do it half-heartedly, and you can't pick and choose where you go. You can try, but it's not going to work. And I think another thing too is people are going to see right through that. People are going to see it's like, well, he'll give 110% on the football field, but in the classroom he doesn't care. And that's people see through that type of stuff, and they can tell what a true work ethic is and what a pick and choose work ethic is. And there's a big difference. And so it really should apply to all areas of life. And you know, I think one of the biggest things you can do is if it's an area that maybe you have a desire to get better in, but you're not quite there. So, for example, I have some buddies that were incredible athletes, but they struggled in school. Okay, school just wasn't their thing. But what they did, because they were such incredible competitors, incredible warriors, they weren't above getting help. They would stay after school to get tutoring. They would ask the teacher for extra help. They would do whatever they possibly could to get it done. And that's the biggest thing. Having a warrior's mentality doesn't mean that, you know, I'm struggling in school, now all of a sudden I'm a genius. It didn't work for me. I'm still not a genius. But my parents, my family, my coaches have always taught me this work ethic. So it's like, if I'm going to fail, it's not because I didn't try. It's not because I didn't give 110% the very best of my ability. If I'm going to fail, it's just because it wasn't meant to happen. But, you know, you'll be surprised. You can do a lot more than you think you can if you put that effort in.
Help me out with that Gogin's quote again. What was that, his quote? And Gogin, man, if you guys want an incredible guy to look at, this guy he's been on the cover of Runner's Magazine. He's the only guy who's gone through Navy SEAL training 3 times. I think he's the only African American who's ever become a SEAL. The guy's a man. One of his first long races, I think his first long race was only 70 miles. So we're talking about a guy who's a little cuckoo for Coco.
Only 70 miles.
Yeah, only 70 miles. So what was his quote again? And this we're going to after this. I'm going to only ask him one more question.
Very good, man. Good.
What was his quote again?
Yeah. So his quote was, "In competition, the goal of competition is to break your opponent's will and steal their soul." Now he says it way cooler than I do. Look, steal their soul. Now, he says it way cooler than I do. But now I'm a lot smaller than him. But that's the idea of it, is that in competition, that's what you're doing. Like I use Richard Sherman. However you feel about Richard Sherman, you can't deny that he's an incredible athlete, and his whole goal is to do exactly that. He's going to pick at receivers throughout a game to make them break.
Hey, shut up!
And so, and you know, a cool thing about that Richard Sherman thing though too is, I recently heard in an interview, there's one guy that he won't mess with. Anybody know, did anybody hear that?
Ray Lewis.
Not Ray Lewis, it's a receiver. Larry Fitzgerald. He's like, I don't mess with him, he doesn't talk back. Like, why am I gonna mess with the dude that doesn't talk back? Larry Fitzgerald's a beast, and he's mentally strong. He's like, I know what this dude's game is, I'm not gonna give in, but you have other receivers, and there's probably a ton you can name, that will hold off for a while, and then they start engaging in that, and guess what? Sherman wins. He's just too good, and once he's in your head, he's in the driver's seat, he can do whatever he wants. So, that's the whole goal of sports. Any sport you play, from whether it's tennis, football, soccer, baseball, basketball.
My basketball coach isn't my team talking to the other players.
And that's the way it should be.
We're going to segue into that because that's where I want to go with this. You know, Sherman doesn't talk. That's not who we are, guys. That's not our culture. You know, our way of running trash and talking trash is by being in such good shape and coming back over and over and over. What did we say yesterday? When we knocked that guy down, what were we going to do? Say, I'll be back later or something like that. That'd be about it. You know, but your actions speak louder than anything else. And this Warriors Creed, the way I take it is, it's not about what comes out here. It's about what you actually do. And let that be your talk. Because I'll tell you what, nothing is more intimidating. You want to get in the guy's head, knock him down, help him back up, and run back to your huddle like, I can't wait to do that again. That's the way we talk trash around here, guys. And ultimately, at the end of the day, guys, why do we are a D2 program. Why do we beat up on D1s? You know why? Because we get in their heads with as fast as we play, with as hard as we play, and we finish. What do we say we do? We play hard, we play fast, we play hard, we finish. That's our creed, guys, and that goes all the way across what we do. But if we're going to get in there and steal our opponent's soul, that's how we do it, guys. I don't know if there's other ways that we could do it and live up to that man of character that we want to be. But ultimately, at the end of the day, guys, that's how we choose to do it here.
That's the way it should be done.
Hey,
let your game speak for itself.
Guys, give them a great applause. Before we go? Or,
I don't think so. We have one team picture.
yeah. You guys want to grab a team picture?
Yeah!
Hang on now, sorry, guys.